is a lot of confusion around the use of hybrid TRT protocols, and it stems from this core problem. The core problem is that people are on already failing TRT protocols with estrogen substantially over their Goldilocks sex-specific zone. They have erectile dysfunction, libido problems, climax sensation problems, or all of it. And then they think, oh, maybe I'll just add some prop. Maybe that will fix it. But the problem is, people are sitting at 150 milligrams of test-CIP a week doing daily injections with a little bit of HCG, and the estrogen's already at 47 picograms per milliliter on that. That's essentially why it's failing to begin with, right? If you had a little more DHT, you might be able to balance that out, but typically people have to be 20 to 35. Then they get the grand idea, hybrids. That seems attractive. Ryan talks about hybrids, other people talk about hybrids. On top of that 150 of Cypionate, where my estrogen's already over range and I have effective erectile dysfunction, let me add 20 milligrams of prop every other day. Maybe that'll fix it. How? Because of the extra DHT? You're already dead in the water with the estrogen out of your sweet spot range. So adding more prop, yes, you're going to get a quick peak in DHT, and that might temporarily stabilize things. Because DHT, has some estrogen inhibition properties to various extents, as I've discussed in this channel, but it's not going to be sustainable. You're still going to end up dead in the water because you haven't gotten the DHT estrogen axis under control. Now that said, same thing with everything, man. Like any other protocol, if you're on prop, you're on 40 milligrams a day, your estrogen's at 57 at peak or 60, and you think, maybe I need a little more DHT, I want to try a hybrid, let me add a pump of transcranial cream in the morning. Yeah, it's going to give you more DHT, but you're not solving the problem of your estrogen being over range for you. That's just the bottom line. And you're not going to square away the DHT estrogen axis. It doesn't scale upward like that. So here's the solution. The best way to do hybrids is to situate your base TRT ester or modality in a dose, which gets you to around 20 picograms per milliliter of estradiol. Okay, so that means you're going to be on somewhat of a lower end dose to trial that. Then you go to Quest or LabCorp, you clock it at 20, you make sure your protocol lands you right around 20. Then what you're going to find is that erections work, right? Because down there in the lower end estrogen, so long as you have sufficient enough DHT, erections will work. They might not be super stellar, but they're going to work. At 20 picograms per milliliter estradiol, libido probably going to be a little meh. You'll be fine with it, but it's not going to be driving you enough primal libido. It's not going to be insane. That's when you add a hybrid. And these are the best situations in which hybrids work. So so you get a Cypionate dose. Call it 110 milligrams a week. The estrogen lands at 20. Erections are okay. Libido's kind of meh. Then you add a pump of cream to the scrotum every day. And what you do then is you take that estrogen from 20 to 27 or 25. You bump up the DHT. Suddenly the erections are better. And now because estrogen is floating more into the libido-friendly zone, into high 20s, early 30s, low 30s, then you get erections and libido, and you've successfully created a hybrid. All right, the same is true with prop. You situate your dose, call it 15 milligrams a day, to where estrogen's at 20, 22. Then, again, erections will be good, probably. Libido probably going to be meh. Then you add 40 milligrams Cypionate once a week. You get this stable thing that goes like this and then like that through the week, and guess what it does? Gives you a little more DHT, gives you some consistent androgen receptor binding, DHT specifically at penile tissues, and you take the estrogen from 20 to 28. You get it in the libido-friendly zone. You've successfully created a hybrid. Do you get it? So in other words, don't throw some other test modality at your protocol in the interest of doing a hybrid when you're already dead in the water with your current protocol because estrogen is too high, the DHT estrogen axis is just totally skewed. It will never work. Okay, so hybrids are much more complex than I'm on a TRT protocol that's failing, let me add another ester. Much more complex than that. The numbers matter. The DHT estrogen axis matters. And this is what I've broken down, including hybrids, with this strategy and more in Mastering Libido and Erections on TRT, the Sexual Function Playbook. Now, I don't write these things because we want to sell more product. This is what I have seen in 7 years of sexual function coaching on TRT. Get the guide, download it instantly, read it all, execute, and instead of wasting the next 2 years not dialing in, you'll dial in less than a couple months, maybe a couple weeks. Anyway, take heed to my instruction on hybrid protocols. Can't just throw a hybrid in there, man. The numbers have to make sense.